loyalty. It comes in many forms. Some players are loyal to success, others to chaos, and others to hamburgers. However, some are loyal to badges, and when you're the best player in a relatively poorly performing team, that definitely means something. Matt Le Tissier, a player that isn't talked about all that much nowadays. In fact, many amongst the younger generation, or even just people that are new to football, very likely haven't even heard about the guy, which kinda makes sense, I guess. He never played for an elite tier team, he never won any major trophies whatsoever, and he had a work rate that wasn't so impressive. However, get this. The man scored 47 out of the 48 penalties he took in his career, was the first midfielder to score over 100 goals in the Premier League, and had all the top teams in English football begging for his signature at the height of his career. He also only received 8 caps for England and scored 0 goals for them. So, what gives? There must be a reasonable explanation for this. Let's find out. With that being said, how good was Matt Le Tissier really? Yo, what's up everyone? I trust you're all doing well and staying safe. Be sure to leave a thumbs up if you like the video, but also if you don't want to, no problem. In any case, thank you so much for the support on the channel so far. I don't say it enough, but I'm incredibly grateful. Okay, enough of that, let's jump right in. His talent was simply out of the norm. He could simply dribble past 7 or 8 players, but without speed. He just walked past them. For me, he was sensational. Xavi Hernandez. That's right, the great Xavi Hernandez had this to say about the great Matt Le Tissier. Even if you don't know all that much about the man, hearing that should help in painting a picture. Born in Guernsey in 1968, right about here, Le Tissier began his footballing journey playing for Vale Recreation Football Club around the age of 7. It was here that he stayed until about 16 years of age. From then on, after being scouted, a move to England with Southampton was on the cards. Bear in mind, phrasing it like that makes it sound like he had to travel far and wide. However, in reality he only had to travel about 200 kilometers to get to the shores of Southampton. But let's not forget that firstly, he was 16 years old. Moving away from home at any age is a significant step, let alone at that age. And secondly, 2 of his older brothers, Kevin and Carl Le Tissier, turned down similar opportunities to move over to the Saints, both opting not to leave their hometown. Matt Le Tissier was stepping into unfamiliar territory indeed. In any case, you're probably wondering why he was scouted in the first place. Long story short, the man was brilliant. He wasn't particularly gifted in the pace or stamina department, even from a young age. However, early on he was energetic when his tank wasn't running on empty. Regardless, what he lacked in those departments he more than made up for in several other categories. His quick feet and ball control helped him beat the press and got him out of trouble frequently. His positional awareness meant that when out of possession, he was able to put himself in a favorable spot to receive the ball. His vision and selflessness meant his teammates were frequently served fantastic balls in dangerous areas. And finally, his ball striking technique and scoring ability meant that almost every other goal he scored was a goal of the season contender. The guy was something special. And in his first few years at Southampton, he showed the world what he was all about. He made his debut for the club in 1986, and although the club was firmly a mid-table first division side at the time, he managed to shine very brightly. And for context's sake, the Southampton squad he played in early on was not lacking in terms of talent either. They had a young Alan Shearer, a pacey David Wallace, and a seasoned Peter Shilton, among others. Initially deployed as a winger, he made his move into the attacking midfielder role as time went by. By 1990, at 21 years of age, he had bagged himself 20 goals in the league in 35 appearances, only bested by John Barnes and Gary Lineker. Obviously, he also picked up the PFA Young Player of the Year award. Unsurprisingly, he caught the eye of just about every top team in the country, and as fate would have it, among those interested was the club he supported as a child, Tottenham Hotspur. According to everyone involved, at the height of the interest, Le Tissier's transfer seemed as though it was basically a done deal. Signed contracts, agreements between the club and the player, we're talking fine margins here. However, seeing as Le Tissier was engaged and soon to be married, it seems his better half just didn't really fancy moving over to London. So that was that. Just like that, the hopes and dreams of casuals and Spurs fans alike were tarnished. The prospect of having an attacking trio of Paul Gascoigne, Gary Lineker and Matt Le Tissier was all but ruined. Alas, what could have been. Anyway, the season after that, he scored 19 goals in 35 appearances. So I guess he wasn't all that sad about the transfer falling through. Now, on the downside of all of this, despite a 7th place finish in the 1989-90 season, Southampton were frequently clinging on for dear life in the seasons that followed. They finished as low as 18th in the league for 2 seasons straight in 1993 and 1994. Seriously, these guys were down bad. In the 93-94 season in particular, they conceded 66 goals and only scored 49. And surely this can't be right. My God. Le Tissier scored 25 goals and made 9 assists in the league this season. No, you're not hearing incorrectly. This guy either scored or created about 70% of Southampton's goals this season. A midfielder made 34 goal contributions in 38 games for a team that avoided relegation by 1 point. So clearly he wasn't all that important to the team, a fringe player, if you will. The very next season, he went ahead and equaled his combined numbers, contributing to 34 goals in 41 appearances. Although this time, Southampton did have a better season, finishing in 10th, and Le Tissier only directly contributed to about 56% of their goals this time around. Listen, they didn't call him Le God for nothing. Now, although these are unreal numbers, they make complete and total sense when you understand the environment that Le Tissier was in at this point in his career. Under manager Alan Ball at the time, Southampton were firmly built around their star man. According to Le Tissier himself, Ball once even went as far as saying to him, "Do what you're good at. Don't bother defending, because we know you're rubbish at that. But when we are defending, get yourself in a position where, when we get the ball, we can pass to you." I mean, there really is no sugarcoating it. At the peak of Le Tissier's career, Southampton were heavily playing to his strengths as one of their core mandates. This is something that Le Tissier really did take to heart. The fans loved him, and the manager loved him. And he definitely remembered that support when both Chelsea and Blackburn Rovers came through with £10 million transfer offers in 1995. Now, if any of these transfers had gone through, Le Tissier would have been made the most expensive English football player of all time. He, of course, swiftly rejected them. Adding on to this, to put this rejection into perspective, the highest basic wage that Le Tissier earned in his career at Southampton was reportedly just under £4,000 per week. During his time at Blackburn Rovers, Le Tissier's former teammate Alan Shearer was reportedly earning £10,000 per week. If Rovers were willing to make Le Tissier the country's most expensive player, I see no reason why he wouldn't be able to negotiate a better deal than what Shearer was earning. Adding on to this, Shearer ended up signing on for Newcastle only 1 year later in 1996, in a deal that saw him earn £34,000 per week. Now, of course, Shearer and Le Tissier are two different cases, but this leaves me with little doubt that Le Tissier could have easily multiplied his earnings with a move to a bigger club if he really wanted to do so. I also have no doubt that he and all those around him were well aware of this. But that's just the thing, he just didn't want to. His love for Southampton was far too strong. I can see why Saints fans think so highly of him. When speaking about his time at Southampton, he once said, "I played the game the way I wanted to play it, and had I gone to a bigger club, I probably wouldn't have been able to do that." To be fair, I don't think he was wrong. On the flip side of all of this, despite the joy he got in helping keep Southampton from the drop and being given the freedom to do so, he did experience his fair share of disappointment in his career. One such area that he experienced disappointment in was with regards to the English national team, or rather should I say with regards to his lack of appearances with the English national team. Time and time again, he was snubbed by managers who didn't feel he was the right fit for the national team, which is evidenced by the fact that he only received 8 caps with England. Throughout his entire career, he was never called up for any major tournaments, and bar the 1994 World Cup that England didn't qualify for, England played in every major tournament that took place while he was an active player. The most scathing omission came in 1998 when the England manager at the time, Glenn Hoddle, left him out of the 1998 World Cup squad. An omission that definitely stung Le Tissier quite a bit, as not only was he still putting in decent performances in the league, but he idolized Hoddle as a child. In addition to this rather negative part of Le Tissier's career, the dark side of his work rate, or lack thereof throughout his career, was that he failed to impress several of his own former managers and teammates alike, which is understandable. For example, from a teammate's perspective, I suspect having to run twice as hard to make up for a player that you believe was not pulling their weight would rub most the wrong way. Carlton Palmer, a former teammate of his, confirmed this suspicion in an interview with Stadium Astro in 2016.
I went to Southampton, he was unfit. So the likes of me, Kevin Richardson and Matty Oakley in midfield doing his running allowed him to show the ability that he's got of set pieces or when he's given time and space.
In any case, from about 1998, his career began to wind down and he finally retired from professional football altogether in 2002. So having gotten that out the way, it's clear that Le Tissier was an insanely talented individual. However, evidently, he did not do enough to impress a fair few individuals, such as the decision makers for the English national team setup, for example. Maybe this isn't so relevant nowadays with the adoption of foreign coaches and coaching techniques, but there was previously a strong belief that England did not produce technical, creative, attack-orientated operators, instead heavily favouring hard-working, all-or-nothing type players. This is something that has been clearly reflected in the national team, for example, in years gone by. Between about 1990 and 2015, some of the most prominent members of England's midfield consisted of the likes of Steven Gerrard, Frank Lampard and David Platt, among others. While these players were all exceptional, well-rounded players, none of them can make the claim to being pure, creative, attacking midfielders. Matt Le Tissier was an incredibly attack-minded individual. Silky smooth skills, supreme playmaking ability, and goals to boot. A player that did not contribute to defense very much and preferred to operate in the hole more often than not. A classic number 10. Only thing is, even to this day, this role at its core has never really been used by the English national team. And even further to that, it's never really existed in top teams in the Premier League. A classic number 10, a trequartista, an enganche, whatever you want to call it, is very much a concept that is foreign to English football. I've actually written an article on this very topic. It'll be linked in the description if you're interested in giving it a read, but anyway. In any case, the top playmakers in the Prem today are all very hardworking players that cover substantial ground in each match. That's more or less how it's always been. Not that there's anything wrong with that. I'm not going to pretend like I know the exact reason for Le Tissier's omission from England over the years, but I'm willing to bet that his work rate, playstyle, and preferred position were among the main reasons for this. Perhaps if he were born in another country or had a different work rate, this would not have been an issue. However, if my grandmother had wheels, she'd be a bike. Anything is possible with hypotheticals. In any case, despite his lack of silverware and the widespread belief that he underachieved, he had an incredible career, all things considered. He helped the club that he loved stay afloat during some of their darkest hours in the Premier League era, broke some incredible records, and inspired so many over the years. Earlier on, I shared a quote from Xavi Hernandez regarding the subject of today's video. However, that quote only told half the story from Xavi's perspective. The Barcelona and Spanish legend also went on to say, "We used to say, this guy Le Tissier is outrageous and he never goes to a big team. He stays at Southampton. It's incredible. He could play for anyone." This quote, along with the person who delivered the message, pretty much sums up what this man was all about over his 16-year career. Le Tissier himself even admits, "I've no regrets whatsoever. From 7 years old, I had an ambition to be a professional footballer and I had an ambition to play for England, and I fulfilled both at Southampton." Despite what anyone says, he very much earned the name Le God. And there we have it. Let me know what you all think of Matt Le Tissier's career. Do you think he could have achieved more? Do you think he was lucky to achieve what he did? Where do you think he ranks among the long list of one-club men over the years? Please feel free to leave any thoughts you have in the comments below. Anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed that one. That's all from me today. Cheers, and I'll catch you in the next one.